reaction continues to pour in following the news of Canadian tennis star Milos Raonic's retirement. The Thornhill native, who has not competed since mid-2024, made the announcement last night in an emotional social media post. He wrote, quote, "This is a moment you know will come one day, but somehow you never feel ready for it." The 35-year-old had an impressive career, winning 8 ATP Tour titles. Mike McIntyre, host of Matchpoint Canada podcast, talked to CP24 earlier about his career. And for more, we're joined by Gavin Ziv, the CEO of Tennis Canada. Okay, so Gavin, first off, good evening. Thanks a lot for joining us. We're talking about another retirement, not just any retirement. This is a pretty big one.
Yeah, Bakari, nice to see you again. Listen, this is an emotional one, right? Milos, the end of an era. He's did so much for our sport and so much excitement over almost 2 decades. And it's tough to see him kind of retire the racket.
Wimbledon finalist. Let's talk about what that means. And I mean, he didn't just get there by beating anyone, right?
Yeah, I think that was the win against Roger in the semifinals, which was a 5-setter, then making the Grand Slam final at Wimbledon, which had never been done by Canadian male. Getting pretty close against Andy, couldn't figure it out. But yeah, that was quite historic, and it just captured the attention of a nation, right? Canadians all tuned in and were cheering him on, and did a lot for our sport and really galvanized the community.
Hey, Gavin, what can you tell us about his, not only just his rise, but from the start? When you start, a lot of these players, they start off as kids and then they work their way up through.
Yeah, I mean, I knew Milos and the family from the junior days when he was actually a small kid and then went through this big growth spurt. Honestly, the way this guy put all the effort in to get better every single day. He was on the courts every single morning before school, worked really hard. Just the amount of work that he would put in to get this much better every single day was quite impressive. Professionalism, class all the way through, him and his family. You knew something was destined for him, and then kind of really took off towards the end of juniors when he really developed that game and got that serve going.
Hey, Gavin, I want to get you to speak more about this. Earlier, you had this to say, quote, "Suddenly people believe that they could be among the very best in the world and compete in the biggest matches on the biggest stages."
It was really a belief system for Canadian tennis players now. We had success over many years, but never really on the biggest stage, on the biggest court in singles. And that's what Milos showed Canadians and the tennis players in Canada, what is possible there for the future and for, what Canadians can really do in tennis around the world. And now what we see with Canadian tennis going through a golden era and doing so well on the courts, a lot of that came from that 2016 season with him, getting to number 3 in the world and really making that showcase at Wimbledon.
And Gavin, you mentioned, getting to know Milos on the juniors. When is sort of like that sweet spot age for kids to kind of start along this process to not only become a professional tennis player, but a great tennis player?
Yeah, Milos was playing in the under-18 junior nationals, and you could see right there, all of a sudden, there was a pro game developing. So playing juniors and transitioning into the pro game at the same time, playing some of those smaller futures and challenger events on the Canadian circuit, that's where that kind of started. And then he went from 300 to 50 really quick, right? Did that, won that event in San Jose in 2011, and then made the quarters at the Australian Open that next year. So it was a catapult all of a sudden, but it was really that transition from juniors to pro where he really jumped very quickly.
Gavin, as we wrap up, what do you want to say about his career and what we should remember, and maybe any hints about the next chapter?
Yeah, I did speak to Milos last week. It's an emotional time for him and the family. They put a lot of effort into his tennis career, and hanging up the racket is really emotional. But we'll remember Milos for what he did on the court and off the court. As I said, total class, loved working with him and the family, and really wanted what was best for Canadian tennis, represented Canada at Davis Cups and Olympics, was always there to kind of, try to do the best for our sport, and left a big legacy for more Canadians playing our sport. Millions of Canadians play the sport. Lots of kids are still getting into the sport. And large that started with Milos Raonic and, in those early years. So we thank him for that. I told him he can't stay too far away from the tennis court, and he promised he'll stay in touch.
Gavin Ziv, CEO of Tennis Canada, I appreciate you. It's always a pleasure, and thank you for making time this evening. Such short notice.
Thanks, Makari.